wishes I extended to you on television last night. I know that you will have the united support of all Americans as you lead the nation in the cause of peace and freedom during the next 4 years. Telegram is signed, Richard Nixon. The question was, has the Vice President expressed to me any explanation or analysis of the election? I think that the time to analyze it comes, a more scientific basis comes when you have the complete results from all the states. Two things that have pleased him especially, however, have been the fact that he has won a tremendous popular vote. And as you know, the margin of popular vote between the two candidates is less than 1%, and the Vice President's margin seems to be increasing as it goes along, so that it'll end up practically a dead heat, or perhaps the Vice President might even end ahead in the matter of popular vote. Naturally, this is of great satisfaction to him, in view of the fact that his was a national campaign carried to all 50 states. I might say just one thing further. You're asking about the Vice President. I've never personally seen a man who has taken something which meant a lot to him in quite such a wonderful grace. He's been someone I've admired for a long time, but I admired him more last night and this morning than I ever have before. He's in very good spirits. He's looked at this thing philosophically and analytically. I've heard him explaining how this works to his two daughters, and it's really been a privilege to watch.
And so ends a chapter in perhaps the final chapter in this 1960 presidential election. Herb Kaplow, NBC News, at the Ambassador Hotel press room in Los Angeles. Now to John Chancellor in New York.
So, the election as it stands now, really over. The only thing we're waiting for is Senator Kennedy. Now, this morning at about 11:05 a.m. Eastern Time, the President-elect, and this is a pool story we have from Hyannis, and pool reporters always write everything down in fear that their colleagues will trip them up, wearing a gray suit and a red tie, called on his father, Joseph, in his father's house at Hyannisport, Joseph Kennedy. Had a photographer, as he walked across the line, took Kennedy's picture. Kennedy advised him to wait, said, "You'll get all the pictures you want later." It is that later that concerns us now. We're just simply not sure when the Secret Service will arrange, as it must, Senator Kennedy's appearance in the Armory at Hyannis. At 11:50 a.m., Kennedy received a half dozen photographers and reporters in a room, in the living room of his father's house, there on Cape Cod. He said he felt fine. He put aside all questions as to his situation until he heard from Nixon. And then, with his daughter Caroline, he walked out onto the broad lawn of his father's house there in Nantucket Sound and looked at the view. The Kennedy family, perhaps characteristically, all spent the morning in active pursuits. Kennedy's father went horseback riding. The sisters took hikes. There has not yet been any recorded instance of a game of touch football, but you must never rule that out with a family like the Kennedys. Now, for those of you who may just have joined us, we'd like again to look at the board and to do the popular vote. We now, for the first time, have a V, as we say, in front of John Fitzgerald Kennedy's name on the election board here. 32,275,184. We have been advised from the control room, and they're in contact with people in Hyannisport, that we're waiting for Mrs. Kennedy, Jacqueline Kennedy, to come out of the house, to be picked up by the President-elect, to be put into a motorcade and taken from that house at Hyannisport, which is now quite a famous structure in the United States, that has taken Cape Cod, an already busy tourist place, and made it something else again. A 5-minute drive, and there are troopers lining the route, about a 5-minute drive from the house to the Armory, and that's what we're waiting for now. Now, I think possibly it might do us some good to have a look at Hyannisport to see what we will see when the next President of the United States comes out and appears on television for really the first time as the next President. Perhaps we could switch now to Hyannisport and have a look at what we may see.
House in the back porch.
That's the back porch of Robert Kennedy's house. The Kennedy family, quite a large one, normally has several houses. You can see the back porch there of Bobby's house. Now we're panning to Joseph Kennedy's house, the former ambassador to the court of St. James, man of considerable influence in this campaign, although we didn't hear much from him publicly. And this as far as we can tell, they're all inside this house, all the sisters, the wives, some of the children, and the president-elect conferring, having a family conference possibly in this house before they leave for the Armory. We are here in NBC election headquarters, Merrill Muller, myself, John Chancellor, waiting for President-elect Kennedy to go to the Hyannisport Armory and make a speech. We've been waiting now for about an hour, actually, an hour and 15 minutes since we first thought he would make this speech. We're told that the motors in his motorcade are revved up, that the people are waiting outside for the president-elect to appear and go there. In the meanwhile, Merrill Muller and I will try and find something interesting to say.
Have we been told where this motorcade is headed? Is this headed toward that big hall that Ray Scherer was telling us about?
That's right. The cameras and Ray Scherer are in the Armory downtown, and the house, I think it's about 5 miles away from the Armory. There are no facilities at the house for keeping people there. Now, Merrill, I believe what we've been waiting for is about to come true. You can see on your screen there the motorcade we've been discussing. Motorcade. The motorcade that will take President-elect. There it goes. There are the photographers in the car. There are some of the reporters, policemen, Secret Service men.
There's the white Lincoln right there.
There's the white Lincoln, just behind the tree. There he is. There he is, the next president of the United States. He always sits in the front seat, and incidentally, so does Mr. Khrushchev. These people find that you can wave more easily from that point. That's Pierre Salinger in the car that just went by, the press secretary who has dogged Mr. Kennedy for this entire campaign. All closed cars, modest. They might be on their way to the supermarket, really, in that town.
It's quite a shopping spree.
It's quite a shopping spree. They've been shopping for all these days. And that, I believe, in the background there, that little strip of water you see, is Nantucket Sound. And now we're going to our reporter on the scene in Hyannisport, Massachusetts.
Here's President-elect Kennedy now, coming up to the Armory. Girls throwing confetti at Kennedy's car. Senator Kennedy sitting in the front seat, being helped out by Secret Service. Senator waiting until there's his wife, Jackie Kennedy. The president-elect is shaking hands with the crowd. Photographers yelling from the roof to get a picture. Senator Kennedy, his wife, and mother go into the Armory for his victory speech.
Here inside the Armory, the once very junior senator from Massachusetts, now at the age of 43, the president-elect of the United States, and his wife Jacqueline go strolling down the aisle, heading to the rostrum while he receives one of the rare